William Shatner returning as Captain Kirk. Could it really happen? At 93, Shatner himself has teased the idea, but is it a good one? Would it be a triumphant return or a nostalgic misstep? Today we're diving into the possibilities, the challenges, and whether the legendary captain should boldly go one last time. Well, hey everyone, I'm Nick and welcome back to Sci-Finatics. Well, during the week, you might have heard a bit of news with William Shatner talking about his possibility of returning to Star Trek as none other than James T. Kirk. This notion has kind of been floated around, for a few years now, with him sort of saying, oh yeah, maybe, but the project has to be right, and the story has to be right, and the character has to be very well written, and all that sort of thing. And there's been a lot of talk in the last few days or whatever online, with people going, yeah, Kirk returning to Star Trek, yeah, this is amazing news and everything. But I just want to pause with this as a concept for a moment, is that just because Shatner is willing to return as Kirk, should he return as Kirk? And the reason I'm saying this is, I love the character of Captain Kirk. My first foray into Star Trek was, all of the Star Trek movies in the 80s, from Wrath of Khan onwards. And then obviously I got into Next Generation after that. The character is absolutely beloved. But I think back to Star Trek Generations, and I think that was such a fantastic exit for the Kirk character. He not only died once, but he died twice, saving the galaxy. The scene with him on the Enterprise B, sacrificing himself to save the ship, and then again later on Viridian 3 or whatever, where he was helping Picard take down Oran. It was a fantastic exit for the character. It was so well done, and I'm really worried that bringing back Kirk, although a lot of fans would say this is great news for Star Trek, I'm very worried about, let's just call it the Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny syndrome. Because here's another example of a franchise where that Indiana Jones was coming back, Harrison Ford was going to play him, much older than we last saw him, and everybody was so excited about this concept. And there was all this hope and optimism and everything for seeing Indiana Jones on screen for one last time. And the film was awful. And I look back at that film and I think it just sullied the memory of Indiana Jones to me. The film was poorly done and his character was just mucked around with so much that it was like, oh, I wish they would never have done this, because it just put a tarnish on Indiana Jones for me. And I'm very worried that bringing back Kirk just for the sake of bringing back Kirk could fall into the same category. You got to remember, even though William Shatner, let's face it, is bloody good for 93 years old. He's been up into space and everything with Jeff Bezos, and he's fighting fit for his age, and he seems still pretty good in the mental faculties and everything. I watched the documentary on his career and everything not that long ago, and he's still amazing. But let's face it, bringing back a 93-year-old William Shatner to play Kirk, we're not going to see him fighting any Gorns or anything, It's like, even Patrick Stewart, at the age of 80 or whatever he was, or 81, when he did the last season of Picard, was looking a bit sort of slow and a bit doddery. And obviously Shatner is, got more than 10 years on Patrick Stewart. If they were to do something like Star Trek Kirk, which was, like what they did with Star Trek Picard, bring him back for a show. I don't know, it feels to me like digging up the dead, If you were going to do it in some weird capacity, like resurrecting his bones from Daystrom Station, where we saw his remains in Picard Season 3, and, putting him into a synthetic body and exhuming his corpse just to reanimate him to, be in some show. It feels really wrong to me, seeing as how his exit was such a noble one and held such gravitas. But is there a circumstance where you could bring him back that would be respectful? I don't think it would be a case of bringing him back into a show. I just don't see 93-year-old William Shatner being able to do that in a way that is good for the character. I know Starfleet Academy has finished shooting season 1, so we know that can't be a possibility, but I suppose they have confirmed a season 2 of that. The only circumstance I think I would be happy to see Shatner return as Kirk would be something like, say, all the students of Starfleet Academy, a hologram of Kirk that the Starfleet and the Federation has generated as a teaching hologram or something, where the students go in for a very special lecture where we see a hologram of Kirk, and he would need to, I think, be de-aged so he'd look like he did in Star Trek Generations. We obviously have seen a lot of success with this technology lately with that Otoy short film, the Unification one or whatever, where we actually saw, Sam Witwer play a de-aged Captain Kirk around the same era as Star Trek Generations. So I think they would need to use that technology to make Kirk of the same age he was when he was in Generations. If they did an episode of Academy, Kirk was there as a hologram teaching the students, maybe giving something like his, risk is our business kind of speech to them or something, and he was just in it as a cameo for one episode. I think that could be handled well. I just don't want to see Captain Kirk in some shadow of his former self scenario, much like we saw Indiana Jones in The Dial of Destiny, where it was just like, no. It's tarnishing the memory of the character. I know William Shatner has said he's been very impressed with the writer who's come up with this possibility, but he also said it was in a show that's in development, and obviously Academy isn't in development. It's well and truly, finished its first season of shooting and in post-production and everything at the moment. The only show that's in development that I'm aware of is the comedy series with Tawny Newsome and Justin Simeon. And seeing him return in some wacky sitcom kind of thing is just going to, again, tarnish the memory of Captain Kirk. I think it works very well in the context of Lower Decks as an animated show, but seeing Captain Kirk in live action doing some weird comedy bit or whatever, no, we don't want to see that. That's not the memory of Captain Kirk that we want to bring back. And look, if there's something else, I'm not sure what capacity you could do this in where it could be handled respectfully, but it just really concerns me that a thing of bringing back old characters, for one last go, like Harrison Ford as Indiana Jones in Dial of Destiny, where it's just a bit of a cash grab. It has to be handled so carefully. And I just don't want to see a repeat of a Dial of Destiny situation, but with Kirk. And that's not going to do anybody any favours. Yeah, what do you guys think? Do you think the notion of Shatner returning as Kirk is a good one? Yes, I'm desperate for this, or is it no. The Captain Kirk character was very well, retired in Generations in such a noble and honourable way. Bringing him back in any capacity is just going to be weird exercise in grave robbing and and reanimation that, is just going to be a shadow of his former self. Let me know your thoughts. Leave a thought in the comments section and we'll get chatting about this, because I think it's one of those topics that, some fans are going to be really up for it, and I think some are going to be a little bit, just because we can do this, should we do this, Let me know your thoughts. Please subscribe to Sci-Finatics if you haven't done so already. Much appreciated. And also check out merch in the merch store. Plenty of cool t-shirts, sci-fi, Star Trek themed stuff. Always at very reasonable prices, and always have regular sales on and everything. And be sure to check that out. And I'll be back very soon with my next video. I'll see you guys soon.